Nashvillians know hard work. But listen, that doesn't mean you have to do it all yourself. TaxRabbit has been helping folks in Music City for over a decade with everything from furniture assembly to minor home repairs. If it's a gorgeous weekend out, do not let that to-do list ruin it for you. Just hop on the TaskRabbit app, describe what you need, and find a skilled tasker right in your neighborhood who can take it off your plate. Pricing is totally transparent. You'll see the hourly rate up front, which includes the tasker rate and the service fee, so there are no surprises at checkout. Download the TaskRabbit app or visit taskrabbit.com today to get those home to-dos crossed off. Today on CityCast Nashville, we are getting into some truly weird Nashville history. You might have passed the exit for Ben Allen Road on Ellington Parkway and assumed he was just some wealthy, well-connected Nashvillian. But did you know he was also a Mason who hosted seances for the city's elite? Local historian Betsy Phillips is here to tell the tale. It's Wednesday, April 22nd. I'm your host, Marie Cecile Anderson, and this is what Nashville's talking about. Before we get into today's show, we are in the final stretch of our spring membership campaign, and today's episode is exactly the kind of local storytelling we love to bring you. Our guest, Betsy Phillips, is a true Nashville treasure, and she shares her deep knowledge of this city's history in a very easily digestible way that's also super fun. I mean, come on, where else are you going to learn about who the heck were Percy and Edwin Warner, or how truly spooky were Ben Allen seances, if it wasn't for Betsy Phillips? That's what we do here at CityCast Nashville. We find the experts in our city who can share the stories that make you feel more connected to this place, more invested in the people who live here, because we believe that if you understand the history of our past, you can improve our future. So if you value that kind of storytelling, we'd love your support. When you become a CityCast Nashville neighbor, you're helping me and our small but mighty team keep doing this work every single day. And you also get some pretty cool perks like ad-free listening, members-only events, and yes, our very cool custom Oxford pennant that you can check out at membership.citycast.fm/Nashville. We believe that understanding our city makes you a better neighbor, and better neighbors make better cities. So, if you've been meaning to join, now is the time. $10 a month or $100 a year. We only have a few days left in the campaign. So join today at membership.citycast.fm/Nashville. And let's keep telling these stories that matter. And now on to our history lesson of the day. For folks who've never heard of him, who is Ben Allen and why does he pop up in tales of Nashville's eccentric history?
So Ben Allen, just to make a long story short, is an eccentric rich man from the turn of the 19th into 20th century who is famous in Masonic circles for being our first 33rd degree Mason, but is famous in our weirdo circles for being a noted occultist who had seances twice a week in his house for much of the turn of the century. And he and his wife would conjure up this being called the Thing that would then terrorize Nashville for fun, I guess.
Just a simple little story about an eccentric little man.
That's
well,
right.
We're going to get into it. Oh, my goodness. Okay, well, let's set the scene then. What was the late 1800s like when Ben Allen was running around town?
So Ben's grandfather was a U.S. representative for Tennessee. His father was the owner or largest stockholder in at least 3 different banks, and he made his money doing tobacco and cotton trading early on, and then he just ran banks. So Ben basically was like Nashville's most fun Nepo baby in the censuses. His job is listed as capitalist, which appears to, I know, right? Which appears to mean he just ran around either doing weird occult Masonic stuff or going hunting. Ben is running with the elite of Nashville. His brother-in-laws are all the Baxter brothers, which basically just means every train company in Nashville. He is cousins with the Overtons, so that ties him in with the McGavicks and means that, like, the Belmead crew is also his crew. And his dad's cousin was Eliza Allen, who was the child bride of Sam Houston, who listeners may remember, they may not. People don't know this. So Sam Houston of like Houston, Texas, was the governor of Tennessee. And he married Eliza Allen from Gallatin. She was like 19. He was 735, I think.
Oh, no.
No, I think he was like in his mid-30s. But he brought her to Nashville, stuck her in the Nashville Inn, and then something happened, and no one knows what. But she ran back to Gallatin. The people of Gallatin rioted, burned Sam Houston in effigy, and he had to flee the state dressed like a woman.
For what he did to her?
No one knows so one rumor was that she told him that she didn't want to marry him. She was in love with somebody else, but she was being forced to marry him by her parents. Downside of that story, she was an orphan. So probably that's not the case. Other story is that when he took his pants off, she noticed that he had a terrible war wound, pussy groin injury.
Okay, that's a
Listen,
first.
folks, the past is gross. It's just well, if you get stabbed during the Revolutionary War.
Right, you got to treat that.
Yeah, or you end up scaring your child bride.
That's right.
So she runs back to Gallatin, and then they never speak of it. But it does kind of set the stage for, like, here comes Ben Allen, right? So there's already like, oh, the Allens are weird, and they've got this, like, maybe scandal. Yet we're, like, in this rich elite, and his dad just, like I said, has more money than most people put together. I mean, we're just talking enormous amounts of money. Like, in 1860, he had $13,000 in real estate and $65,000 just like in money in the bank. That $65,000 is the equivalent of $2.5 million now.
Whoa, and that was just cash.
Yeah, just as like walking around money. Right. So Ben hits the scene, and like Nashville is ready for a weirdo, and his family already is like a little weird. And we're already into the spiritualist movement, right? So Reverend J.B. Ferguson, this is one of my favorite stories about Nashville. Picture Church of Christ pastor who gets caught up in spiritualism and stands in front of the first Church of Christ and says, you want to know what it's like in the afterlife? We don't need the Bible. Let's throw our Bibles away. We can just ask the dead. And in response, his congregation burnt his church down.
Oh.
This is like 1855. But it still meant, like, he tried to start a spiritualist utopia up on Brick Church Pike, which I don't know if Brick Church feels better or worse about not getting a spiritualist utopia. But Nashville's already primed, right? And everyone had gone through the Civil War. This was, everybody had lost loved ones to illness. For all of the reasons that spiritualism was catching on, like, throughout the nation, Nashville was really primed for it, especially with kind of the weird situation we were in after the war. There was like a lot of, not tension, but discomfort, because on the one hand, we were a Confederate stronghold for like 3 seconds. Then we just gave up. Literally, the mayor went into a field and was like, here you go, United States, you can have us back. So there's just like all this weird
Nashville.
kind Yeah, anxiety about being this, I mean, kind of in a way, this new it city, right? So into this tension where all of these people, like the rich people who might have suffered a few setbacks during the Civil War, except for Ben Allen's dad, who did not, they're now back on top. You know, the social order has kind of been like reestablished and everybody knows where they stand, but there's all this anxiety. And Ben Allen and the widow, Sue Hayes, born Sue Perkins, fall in love. She's older than him by a few years. They fall in love and they get married. And then they buy this beautiful Italianate brick house on 8th Avenue. He and Sue start throwing these seances. So imagine, because also this is the Victorian era, right? We were all supposed to be proper gentlemen and ladies. You're certainly not supposed to be touching people. But in order to have a seance, in this case, I mean, there are many different ways to do it, but in Ben and Sue's case, they're sitting around a circular table, probably 12 people, maybe a mixture of men and women, and they're crammed in there. So everybody's shoulders are touching, their knees are touching. They have to hold hands.
It's almost scandalous. Truly.
Right.
Okay.
And then the lights go out. Because you have to do your seance in the dark. The spirits can't appear to you in broad daylight. So there they are, right, holding hands. The dead are speaking. And then the like highlight of every seance was that Ben and Sue would bring through, they would conjure into the room this being they called the Thing. And the Thing would like grab women's stockings and roll them down their legs. They would brush against men's thighs. They would untie shoes. Like the Thing was like the epitome of like repressed sexuality. It's just like, oh, would it be scandalous for us to see your ankle? Well, now your ankle is bare because I've pulled your stockings down. So, you know, if you can imagine all these people in the dark crammed together holding hands and then clothes start rearranging, there's this kind of underlying like real erotic thrill that none of them can admit to because of the era. So it's great, but there's a lot of contention about like, is the Thing real or is it not?
Right, a creative party trick that they've just made up to maybe introduce an orgy.
Yes. Right?
What is happening? What do you think?
Well, so this I'm really torn about because on the one hand, as part of Ben's occult knowledge acquisition, he was a great mesmerist, which in modern terms is a hypnotist. So I do think a thing that we need to keep in mind is that he's sitting there knowing how to like put people in a hypnotic state and kind of like make impressionable things happen. You know, the way that it's described is kind of like a cat the size of a medium dog. Like, which I'm also like, well, how could there be a description of it if it wasn't some kind of real thing? I also think with Ben being a hunter, he could have brought some, like a real actual animal home. But on the other hand, I want to give Ben Allen credit that if there was someone in town who could have pulled a purely non-corporeal being across from wherever, it was him, right? Like, there's just not anybody else in town who was like, since I'm rich and I have nothing better to do than hunt and study the occult, that's a man who had the time to, like, if there was some way to do it, he probably could have found it.
He would have had the time to figure it out. Hey y'all, it's Marie, host of CityCast Nashville. I want to tell you about something that we just added for CityCast Nashville neighbors that I am genuinely very excited about. Every Friday, after the regular episode wraps, neighbors get access to an exclusive bonus segment in a special members-only ad-free feed. And I am not talking about filler content. I am talking about the stuff we actually want to say, but doesn't always fit in the regular show. With a little wink to hee-haw, we are calling this exclusive members-only segment Hell Nah, where we get to rant and rave about Nashville. This is for listeners who really want to get some things off their chests. And hey, join CityCast Nashville neighbors today, and maybe you'll be a guest on Hell Nah. Do you have something you want to talk about? Because we want to hear from you. Our neighbors will get the Friday bonus segment plus ad-free listening, invites to members-only events, a weekly preview of the best things happening around the city, and more. It's $10 a month or $100 a year, and it goes directly to supporting this show and the team of locals who make it happen every day. Read more and become a CityCast Nashville neighbor at membership.citycast.fm/Nashville. That's membership.citycast.fm/Nashville. And neighbors, I'll see you in the bonus segment. Hell no! So did anybody ever figure out the truth about Ben Allen's seances?
I know that Judge Dickinson, so this would have been, a cousin of Ben's, but he told a story to a guy in New York about how a certain lawyer, and the certain lawyer is like clearly him. Does anyone know how to conjure a demon asking for a friend? That friend is me. That's basically.
That's exactly.
Right.
Okay, what did he say?
Okay, so Jacob is telling this story about how he had been, or this lawyer had been at the seance and was convinced that Ben was somehow faking it. And so he was determined to catch Ben in the act of faking it somehow. So the lights go down, the seance is going on, the thing enters, and the thing is beneath the table. And the lawyer strikes a match, lifts up the table, sticks his head and the match under to see what's going on, and sees something that he doesn't know how to describe. And he ran out of the house, ran down the street, and then had to come back later for his coat and hat. Jacob Dickinson became a well-established judge does not strike me as somebody who's making things up for no reason. So I don't know, man. It seems like something definitely was going on at these seances. And then the craziest part to me is that it's not a very famous ghost story, but there's a ghost story that the corner of Centennial Park, behind the funeral home, is haunted by a cat. But what everybody who's ever told me that ghost story does not know is that Sue Allen, after Ben died, she lived in that house that is now the funeral home.
Whoa, I was just there.
Right?
For a funeral.
So to me, it's kind of how wild that there's still this story that's being kind of carried around with Sue. And when I first started researching this, where Ben and Sue's house was there on 8th was a credit union. So I called to see if there had been any ghostly, but nobody ever called me back. They were I don't know what this fool is up to.
Oh my goodness.
But the other thing is that Ben had a laboratory in his yard in back of the house, a shed, where he made jewel-encrusted things and mechanical devices. And I don't know what kind of mechanical devices they were exactly. I'm just imagining Rube Goldberg type contraptions that perhaps make a thing under your table. I don't know. But the jewel-encrusted things, right? Because he's got so much money. It's just well, what can I... He makes this beautiful sword for one of his Masonic friends that's jewel-encrusted. This is the best part of the Ben Allen story, to me, is that the Masons are the people in town who have continued to keep his legend going So they have items of his. They have the jewel-encrusted sword. And they have, perhaps his most mysterious item, they have his Buddha.
The Buddha!
Yes.
You have to tell us all about this gold Buddha that showed up at his house or something?
Yes.
What's the story there?
I've heard the story a couple of ways, but this is the way that the Masons told it to me. One day, a circus came to town that no one was expecting, an unscheduled, mysterious circus. And they set up, did one show, and then by the morning, they were gone. But after they left, there was this gold Buddha statue on Ben Allen's porch with a note that basically said that this was in thanks for some favor he had done for some Asian mystic. Which is wild, because as far as we know, Ben Allen never went to Asia. He did travel considerably, but only on hunting trips, not overseas as far as we know. And that now is sitting also at the Masonic Lodge downtown. And when I went to see it, it was just like when you go into the receptionist area, it's just behind the woman who's sitting there. The most mysterious object that we know of in town. And it's just just going to gush about the Masons and the good job that they have done, keeping Ben alive as a legend and making sure that he is remembered as this kind of larger than life weirdo.
Right.
Who's, bringing forth creatures from the other side and contacting the dead. And I just can't overstate how deeply beloved both he and Sue were. This was not considered shameful or, the way now if somebody was oh my gosh, Lee Beeman's brother has a demon, people would be kind of oh, that's strange. I want, no, everybody was just well, yeah, I mean, what do you expect from Ben? Of course.
And then tell me about his death. I read that it was actually described as odd.
Because his official cause of death is melancholy. I know, right? It's so, I'm just imagining him some kind of Edgar Allan Poe hero just walking through the streets, followed by his sad demon thing. But at lunch today, I pulled up his death certificate, and he did indeed die of melancholia. But the contributing factor was a softening of the brain.
A softening of the brain.
Yes, but I was that's weird. And then they had listed encephalomyelisa, some kind of encephala blah, 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 which I looked up because I'm what is this? And it is basically part of your brain just starts to liquefy. And one of the side effects is that you get real depressed.
Whoa!
Fair.
As your brain melts. Yeah, right. It's a bummer.
But one of the causes of this can be syphilis.
Ah, yes.
Which made me real
Good
sad
old
because
syphilis.
Sue had been married previously, right? She married a guy, his name was Thomas Hayes. Obviously, deeply loved him. He had fought in the Civil War. And he died of locomotor ataxia. Locomotor ataxia is jerky movements, also caused by a spine thing. And without looking, you don't know where your arms and legs are in space, and you're jerking all around. And it is often caused by neurosyphilis.
Oh.
So it made me kind of sad because what I think probably happened is Thomas probably picked up syphilis during the war, would be my guess. Just because I hate to tell y'all, but when soldiers go to war and they get lonely and scared. So I think he probably picked up syphilis during the war, didn't know it, gave it to Sue, who then gave it to Ben, would be my guess. And so they're both dying of the same, basically, I think the same thing. But on the other hand, Sue lived to be 83. She obviously loved both her husbands very much and loved their families. Just a genuinely nifty person who was deeply, deeply beloved by the community and by her family. And just the thought of, like, she might have had some, like,
Right. From her
some part in
beloved
this.
first husband. Yeah. Mm.
Just made me sad. Like, again, I mean, you can find some real vile people in Nashville history, and maybe the Allens have some secret that I just haven't come across. But in general, like, all the research on them, they just seem really neat. Like, they seem like they cared for their community cared for them. And, like, one of the things with Ben being so involved with the Masons, right, is now we have a Ben Allen Road up in East Nashville. And that's because that road leads to the Masonic Widow and Orphans Home, which is now on the TBI lot. But I didn't even realize you could tour the Grand Lodge, but they don't mind because I'm like, well, you're a secret society. But they're like, well, yeah, but we could show you everything and you're still not going to get it because you don't have the secret knowledge. The Masonic Lodge downtown is so beautiful. It is just one of the most beautiful spaces in town. And so the fact that they have also, like, kept up with Ben's legacy and continue to kind of make him into this larger than life figure, it's amazing because otherwise you just have, like, oh, here's Andrew Jackson with his fancy sash, and here's another, like, nobody else until Ben is like, what if we contact the dead? And all this, all this stuff that Masons get accused of. Like, until then, no one was doing that crap here as a Mason. Like, being a Mason was just like, well, that's Wednesday, like, Monday night is poker, Tuesday night is we're all in the Ku Klux Klan, Wednesday is Masons, Thursday is Rotary, or however it was.
Right.
So, like, this way that we think of Masons now as, like, this secretive occultist group, in Nashville, that was really Ben that brought that kind of mythology to being a Mason. What's the point in being incredibly rich with nothing to do if you're not going to try to be some kind of weird larger-than-life figure?
Well, so where does Ben rank for you in the strangest characters in Nashville history?
I think just in terms of delight, he is my top. He's my favorite Nashville weirdo, just unexpected. It's one of those things, because, if you think about, like, the way that Nashville kind of thinks of itself, the fact that, like, anybody driving on Ellington Parkway is seeing an exit named for a guy everyone knew was an occultist. It's just like,
yes.
Like, you'd think, could you remember, are you old enough to remember when Musica went in?
Yes. Yes, my mom was at the review.
Right. Yeah.
Yes, and everyone was like, whoa.
Yeah, had a fit, and, like, there was all this controversy, and I'm like, that's just naked people. You've got a legit guy who is conjuring otherworldly beings and studying the occult and at least knows enough about Buddha that people are giving him Buddha statues. And we went ahead and named a whole dang road after him. You'd think that some fundamentalist Christian groups would just, like, for the past 100 years be out there, like, protesting. Like, we have not forgotten. But no.
No, Nashville. A lot of people say Nashville's not weird enough. I think we are. And Ben Allen definitely makes it true. That's right.
We are. We just don't know it. Like, that's really the bummer part, is there's so many weird and wonderfully weird things about Nashville. Ben Allen at the top of the list. Not to disparage anybody, but we have plenty of, like, psychic mediums still in town. Why isn't anybody talking to Ben? Like, of everybody who should be available for chat.
Right.
You'd think it would
Ben, let's call Ben.
Exactly.
Well, Betsy, this has been just a joy. I can't wait to have you back. It sounds like we have a lot more characters to talk to you about. here.
Or talk to. Okay.
Talk to. Yes.
Seance next time. We'll see.
That's right. Join us, everyone. Thank you, Betsy.
Thank you.
I mean, come on. Betsy Phillips is one of the coolest historians in town, and I still can't believe that we get to have her here on CityCast Nashville. I just adore everything she does, and I'm just so grateful for her lending us her brilliant brain and storytelling skills. So thanks again to Betsy. And folks at home, I have some new neighbors to welcome. Elizabeth S., Megan F., welcome to the neighborhood. One of the many perks that you get for joining as a CityCast Nashville neighbor are the exclusive membership events. And with all these incredible historians in town, I personally want to get all the neighbors together and go on one of these many tours. Let's go to the Nashville Cemetery. Let's take the Nashville Queer History Tour. Let's go to Fort Negley and learn about the history there. There's so much to learn in our city, so many stories to tell, and I'm just incredibly grateful that we're connected to these folks and that they would be willing to give our neighbors a tour. So if that interests you today, go ahead and join membership.citycast.fm/Nashville. Let's learn together, folks. That's all for today here on CityCast Nashville. And don't forget, early voting for the Davidson County primary elections is going on now through April 30th with Election Day on May 5th. And if you enjoyed the show, why not tell your friends, rate the show, leave us a review, and subscribe to our CityCast Nashville newsletter. We'll be back tomorrow morning with more news from around the city. Toodles!